In a world where our friends call us not us united and our enemies call us midnight rain, two dudes must learn to podcast as the Fremen do in order to survive the desert planet of endless content. We don't care how many enemies we have. They'll never be prepared for us. Not us united. I just need Adam to start investing in us.
Yeah.
I just be like, hey, maybe we'll give you like more episodes or something.
Right.
Our
We want to talk
Patreon.
about Dawn of the Planet Apes Part 2, the second movie.
How would you like to own 30% of Not Us United International? Don't tell him that.
Oh, I will. I'll put this part in the episode, so he knows. Adam, if you ever want to invest in Not Us United, here it is. We've started the podcast, by the way, Sam.
Okay,
This is how
go.
it goes.
Okay. In the thick of it.
In the thick of
That's
it. Speaking of Not Us United investors and fans, friend of the show, and now father of our new guest with us,
Yep.
Adam, but now son Sam. That's what we're going for.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Took me
That's
a
what
while
I was
to figure
going
out
for.
what you were doing.
Sam's here.
Gotcha.
Sam's with us on the podcast.
That's right. Here I
Yeah.
am. Yep. I'm a big new, so it's
Wow.
it's quite an
He's
honor
bringing it
being
back.
here. That's right.
That is something I actually forgot to bring up to Nick, is that we went to a family reunion and we were just talking,
Yep.
and everyone hated the term new.
Oh, I thought it was funny.
Except
I thought it was
Sam.
funny. There you go.
Because of
Right.
why?
It just sounds stupid, man.
Interesting.
New.
Yep.
It's like
No.
extra
Funny.
new.
There were like 3 episodes in a row this spring. I feel like that you were bringing it up, saying
Nice.
how you wanted us to be known as the new news. So,
Mhm.
so I'm keeping it going.
That's right. Not Us United.
Sam's a real new.
Oh, they hated it because of us?
Yeah, because it was a stupid name.
Wow. I didn't know we actually caused... Okay.
They didn't like it because the name.
I
of
thought
the
you just
people-
meant in society. You found
No.
family members that hated people when they said
No,
new.
new wasn't a thing that
Like our fan
our-
new news.
our what we
You're
call our
insane.
fans is new news.
That's awesome. In showbiz they say as long as people are talking about you.
That's right.
So
No,
I'll take it.
all publicity is good.
But I
publicity.
appreciate you keeping the new for us.
That's
eh?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've actually been from afar, like a part of this podcast in many ways, because I've heard some critiques and some encouragements from you, from Michael. One of which I remember, I believe it was, we did Avatar 2 around the same time as Black Panther 2.
Yep.
And
Yep.
did you feel as though we were unfairly criticizing Avatar 2 comparatively?
I did, yes. I feel
Has
like
your...
I came at Michael pretty hard for that.
I know,
one.
yeah. It's like the first minute he walks in, he's like, "Yo,
You sit down. We're talking. No. Yeah. It just felt like there was definitely a lot. I feel like almost only bad to say about Avatar 2,
Fair.
and then only good to say about Black Panther 2.
Fair.
And I thought they were both okay. I would probably agree with you that Black Panther 2
Was the better? Yeah.
But yeah.
But in your mind, an equal movie. We were just harder on
Sure. Yeah.
one of them,
Fair.
Yeah.
which I think is a worse movie.
Amen. Well, we need people to keep us honest, so I respected
right.
it and was like,
Yep.
all right.
But
we
hey, I
need to-
watched it. It was they're still good episodes.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
Sam. I appreciate every other time that I see you. I feel like you have a new movie opinion, and it just keeps me going.
Yep. There you
Oh,
go.
it just gives me that little fire.
Give
I
me a
need.
recent Sam new opinion of movie.
I don't know. Let's see. Well, I think you're on a Nolan kick right now.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan a lot. Yeah.
So you've seen Memento.
Mm-hmm.
Nick doesn't like Memento
Ooh.
As much
as much. Okay.
as
as
later
others.
works.
Okay.
But yes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
No, I respect Memento. I think just as a sheer experience, I can't think of another movie that does
What
that.
Memento did.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yep.
like so.
Yep.
Hats off.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah. So Inception,
I
Interstellar.
like Inception. I like Interstellar, but The Prestige is the other big one for me. Christopher
Nick
Nolan.
likes that one a lot.
Yep. It's a good movie.
See, that's my Memento. I'm not super hot on Prestige.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the most surprising part of Prestige for you? Is it the ending, or is it that David Bowie is in the movie?
David Bowie's in the movie. Yeah.
That's yours. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are your only two choices. I guess Andy Serkis is also just randomly in there.
Yeah, but
too.
David Bowie.
Oh,
is
yeah.
more
David
yeah.
Bowie is Nikolai Tesla.
Yeah,
It's
Right.
like, what the
Insane.
heck?
Rest in peace.
I'll never forget that part when that happens. Like, wait, who is this guy? I feel like I know this. And anyway, good movie. I also recently heard that Barbie has now grossed domestically just more than The Dark Knight, being Warner Brothers' highest grossing film of all time.
No way.
Wow.
That's insane.
So there you go.
Wow.
So the Dark Knight has officially been dethroned and the
There's a new Dark Knight in
U.S.
town.
soil, thanks to Barbie. So there you go.
That's incredible.
All right. Without further ado, we've teased you. We've teased you. You've told us about. Sorry, I shouldn't say you've told us. You've told Michael, who's told me about TMNT and how this is perhaps going to be the greatest movie of all time. And
That was
we're
the
very,
hype.
very hype. You've watched the trailer multiple times.
Right. Correct.
Daily.
Correct. Essentially daily this summer.
They're taking a whole, like, they kind of revamped it because there was 2 mostly CGI films that previously came out.
Michael Bay stuff.
How do we feel about those? Do we feel like we don't talk about them, or do we talk about them?
I talk about them.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I love them.
Okay, good to know.
You know, I'm such a big Ninja Turtles fan that really anything that you spit out at me, I'm gonna like to some extent.
Sure.
You know.
There's a bias of just like, hey, at
right.
least it's content.
Right. Yep.
Yes.
I went and saw them in theaters. Enjoyed watching them in theaters, but no, I wouldn't say I love them.
Got it. Before this movie arrived, where would you rank TMNT content? Like, what's the best
Wow.
to the worst
question.
Very,
of,
very good question.
in a somewhat condensed form?
Sure.
Like, you have 4 hours if you want them for this question, but let's say you
TMNT
don't
review part 1
get to use
and
all
part
of them
2.
for this.
So the question was to rank kind of the various.
Yeah, or just like
Like
what's some
the
of your
top and
favorites and what are
bottoms.
some of
Okay.
your best,
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
worst?
I would definitely say top tier Ninja Turtles, the 2003 animated series. That's how I first got into the Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
Yeah, fell in love with that show as a four and a half year old.
Starting
and
young.
Is that
That's right.
Nickelodeon? What's that on?
Shoot, I don't know.
That
Four
was-
kids. Four kids.
That
whatever.
was Nickelodeon, right?
Yeah, Nickelodeon.
Okay.
No, 4
And
Kids
then-
was like something.
What was 4
PBS.
Kids?
It was like some kind of
Whatever.
partnership with
okay,
that,
cool.
I think.
Okay.
Yep. So the 2003 animated series, grew up watching it, and I assume my dad introduced it to me. He had a couple of his younger brothers were really into the show that ran through the late 80s, early 90s. So he introduced it to me, and I fell in love immediately with that show. But then as far as other top tier Ninja Turtles, I would say the original 1990 live action film.
Ooh, where they actually like wore the
like the rubber
That's
suits
right,
and
that's
stuff.
right. Yep.
Dude.
Okay.
That's
Respect.
up there, one of my favorite movies. So if you're talking top tier, those two, that series and that movie above all, and I would say a pretty big gap. But I've seen so much. I liked the 2012 show. I watched that maybe middle school, high school.
Sure.
The 2012 animated show, enjoyed that. I like the sequel to the original 1990 film, Secret of the Ooze. That's a good film.
The big ooze.
The one in the third in that trilogy was trash though. The Turtles in Time came out in 92. I want to say.
These are things I
Time
don't even know
travel
about.
ruins everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming there was time travel.
There was.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was.
Just
Yep.
ruins everything.
Didn't enjoy that one. Michael Bay in the middle, I'd say.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So not the worst, but not the best.
Yep. And then the 80s show would also I would put it in the middle. I haven't seen all of that one. There are 10 seasons, so
Yeah,
I
big
don't even know
catalog,
about.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my only context is the 2003
sure.
show.
Did they start off as a cartoon or were they comic book?
They were comic books originally,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I
Okay.
do own a lot of the original comics. First one came out in 1984, just two guys living together who
making turtles?
Yep, and I think that so they lived together and intended to create their own whatever comic book series.
That's sweet.
And one night, the one of them is just sitting there and he doodles a turtle carrying nunchucks, standing on 2 feet.
Sick.
And they're like, "This could be an idea." And then they kind of
You
start
got
to sketch
something
from there. And then they assumed it to be a one and done. It was just going to be
Yeah.
a one issue and whatever. And then they sold all their, I think they sold like 3,000 copies immediately. And then they were bummed because they killed the Shredder in the first issue. And they're like, "Dang it, this film was so cool." And we killed him right away in the first issue.
So like
Nice.
brought him back or something.
Yes, they did find a way to bring him back. Later.
ooze something. Yeah.
Oh, the secret of the ooze. That's
Ooh,
it.
oh.
The magic ooze.
So,
Nice.
original comics are up there too. I would say there's nothing that I hate. There may be a couple iterations that I've intentionally avoided
Sure.
because I know I would hate them. Like, for example, there was a show in 1996 that was live action called The Next Mutation where they bring in a female turtle. I've seen a couple clips from it.
Oh yeah. I've seen that one.
Yeah. You seen it?
I actually remember that for some reason.
Have you?
I remember
Alright.
seeing
Heard
it.
Yep.
of
Yes.
this.
Well,
Is insane.
That's the one that everyone online says to avoid. Like, I've seen lists online that are like, rank the top 10 Ninja
Turtle.
Don't mention this.
No, it was like
It's always like the bottom.
it was ranked the top 10 turtle villains, and the 9th on the list was the producers of The Next Mutation. So,
Wow.
yeah. So that's one that I've intentionally avoided if I had to say like what my least favorite was.
Okay.
But there's also
yeah.
there was a show, an animated series that was 2018 and 2019, just 2 seasons. And that one, I would say, is towards the bottom for me. They change a lot. The turtles characters
They're
are
actually
like
penguins in
they're
the series.
no.
Okay, got it.
no, still 4 turtles, but they're different kinds of turtles, so they look vastly different from each other.
Oh, gotcha.
And their personalities are also not the iconic,
Sure.
what people would know.
Archetypes that they're
something else,
normally.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did actually end up enjoying it as I watched it. I originally was like, this looks like trash. This isn't the Ninja Turtles. Ended up watching it last year, and I was like, that wasn't too bad. But,
Yeah, it seems like a hard IP to like tweak
yeah.
Yeah.
without ruining like the heart of what
Right.
it is.
Which,
You know, like
Yep, which
if-
we'll definitely talk about
sure,
as we get into
because all
the
4
film.
kind of stand the test of time as like kind of the 4 types
Yep.
of people you kind of run into in the team configuration that they have, and so I think that's tricky.
So generally positive
Oh,
going into the movie.
Oh yeah, yep. And I guess before we move on, I kind of gave a little bit of my background as far as Ninja Turtle knowledge goes. I was curious where you guys
Sure.
stood going into this film.
Yeah,
go,
so I have sporadically consumed some content, not nearly to the extent that you have. I have seen, I think, the live-action movie once, but I could also be remembering the Super Mario Brothers movie where it also had a thing that
bunch of
kind of
turtles
looked
and
like a
stuff,
turtle
yeah.
in it, and it was like a Goomba or whatever. No, I think they like, just around that time, that was just like the big thing. Everything was like rubber suits and things like that. And then I'm kind of familiar on the comic side. I'm having to really think about this, but there's like a comic that I was interested in but never consumed, where I believe Raphael just like goes off on his own as like a Ronin or something,
Yeah,
like a samurai or something.
I believe you're referring to the Last Ronin. Would it have been somewhat recent, maybe 5
Yeah.
or so years ago?
Yeah,
Yep. So and I've still never read that
never read it. Okay,
that comic, but I really want to, and I've read a lot about it. So essentially, it takes place in the future, and there's one of the Ninja Turtles left.
yeah,
And essentially, I think it's like almost a post-apocalyptic world
that's
where,
kinda tight.
where it's like the Shredder's grandson or something is like taking over.
That's cool.
And the interesting thing is that the comic starts, you don't know which turtle it is, which one's the one. No, and okay, I won't say, but you were wrong. Actually, it's not Raph. It's not Raph. So I'll leave the
now I'm
viewers up to
even more.
the suspense. Yep.
Okay,
But
so there's still 30, or there's 3
There's still
Right.
other chances.
and the way they reveal it, which one is left, is he has flashbacks where he like sees his brothers die. So you're able to like check off and be like,
Which-
okay,
it's not this
it's
one,
not
it's not-
this
yeah.
one because he's remembering his death.
Okay.
And then they narrow
like
it down
it.
until there's
Got
the
it.
one. So
Not to get too off into, so I'm like a Power Rangers kid. I've talked about it
course
before on
you
the
have a Power
podcast.
This guy.
But it seems like both have had similar trajectories in that, like, Power Rangers had a stint in comics where they did like the darker side too, where it's like, what if post-apocalyptic, one of the Rangers went off the deep end and just went crazy, like opposite, not like the only one left and is like
Went
a hero, the only one that's left and just goes and kills all the rest of the Power Rangers. So anyway, the dark stuff, but like still childhood things, I'm in. So
Yeah.
I might actually check that out. I don't know if that should be my first introduction, but at the same time, I feel like I'm aware of
Yeah.
the culture that is they've built up, so I might dig into that. So
okay.
that's where I'd say I'm at. I think I might have owned a shirt one time. It might be that exact shirt,
there you
and
go.
I
You
just
see, I
it's
just
like
stole
it's
the
lost
shirt from you.
somewhere. So yeah. But anyway, there you go, Michael. Over to you. Michelangelo tonight.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'll be referred to as Michelangelo. Michelangelo knows little to nothing about the turtles.
They are turtles.
They are turtles. I know
Correct.
Okay.
that. I did watch the show, and the only thing I remember is some kind of time travel one where they go into the future, and they do a future thing. That's all I know. I just remember them being in the future at one point.
Okay.
Other than that,
Pretty clean slate.
A
You're a
very
good
clean
litmus,
slate,
litmus test for
This is like, I was talking to Grace about this, and like, this is like the most nerdy thing that I know absolutely nothing about. Like, I think before I started dating Grace, I don't even know if I could name the 4 turtles.
Pains me,
I'm
Michael.
sorry,
it
dude.
pains me.
I'm sorry.
You've discipled him well, though.
Yeah.
He at least now knows the 4
No,
turtles.
and before I went to see the Ninja Turtles movie, I tried to guess the turtles with the name, like with the names and the colors and the weapons, and I don't remember what I guessed, but I got everything wrong.
Oh, jeez. You'd think maybe even guessing you could get a couple right, Michael.
No, I said Mikey was red and he was the leader, and he had like the staff.
Dang, so many things are wrong.
Yeah, I said everything
Oof.
wrong. And Grace,
Even that hurts me.
And Grace recorded me saying it. I didn't know she was recording me. And so she has it on video, and you can watch it, and
right,
maybe
all right.
your opinion of me will get less. But I got everything wrong, and I kept asking which one was green, like bandana. Which one had the green bandana?
Why would they have a green bandana?
And yeah, because
They're already green, Michael.
Yikes, Michael. Angelo. Jeez.
So I'm going to tell you which colors match up with each name.
All right.
Right?
Let's hear it.
Okay, who is blue?
Blue is Leonardo,
Correct.
and
Who
he's the
is-
leader.
Who is orange?
Orange is Mikey,
There
because
you
he's
go.
goofy and orange is goofy.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then Raph is red.
Yep.
And then Donnie's purple.
There you go.
I'm proud of you.
Oh man.
And
Lit-
so that was all from this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
Every time a character was on screen, I'm like, that's Raphael. I just kept repeating it
take
to
a note in
myself.
your head. Yep.
So I've learned a lot.
That's good. So the movie did something for you.
It did
at
something
least.
for me, yeah.
There you go.
Amazing.
So
All right. Well, why don't we finally dive in to this crazy
Ninja
movie?
Turtles.
I'm just gonna break the ice and say everyone can sleep soundly tonight. I love this movie.
Love this movie.
Yes,
Okay.
I thought it was
great.
incredible,
There you
Great.
go.
and I was surprised.
Yeah.
I think when I heard Sam, you were like super excited. I was like, yeah, I mean, as a TMNT fan, got it. Yeah, but he's excited, sure. And then I heard how excited you were, and I was like, okay, it's like maybe a little disproportionately excited than most people. All right. I think I didn't have like super high expectations, but I knew that some people would like it, and I left the theater going, wow. Some of my expectations were I thought it was like the art style was leaning a little heavy into the Spider-Verse vibes. Like it kind of like, oh, is this going to feel
Too
too close to be like copy my homework, but don't like not too close.
Yeah.
And I left feeling like it completely stands on its own, even in the genre of these like crazy well produced animated films.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
I'm ready for Sam just to pop off, so I'm just trying to like say things
Yeah.
really fast and then just letting Sam just have the floor. So
Sure,
those
sure.
are my
Yeah.
spoiler free. It's great, and then I'll have some more like in depth thoughts
Yeah,
when we get into
sure.
spoilers. Anyway, there you go.
Mhm.
I like it. Michael, do you want to go first? Do
Or
you
yeah,
want me to-
okay, and then we'll let the floodgates open.
Sure.
Okay,
We'll
sure.
let,
I was definitely surprised by the movie. I was
Yep.
surprised how much I liked it. I really, I was messing with Nick saying that I didn't like the movie, but of course I liked it. What's not to like about the movie? It's great.
I knew you were lying because like you never flat out said you hated it.
Yeah.
But you were just like weirdly being quiet about it. You're like, yeah, it was a movie. I was like, okay, you're being stupid. Something's up.
No, I had zero expectation going into the movie, being a non-fan, and I was just surprised and had a great time. It was fun. Yeah, having no baggage coming into it and having no expectation, I think really for me made it just like freeing. Just to be like, hey, cool, I'm just gonna watch a movie,
True.
and it's fun,
Yeah.
and I like these characters, and I want to see more of them. And so I don't know if I loved the movie, but it definitely made me a fan. So
Good.
It's hard to know too, like who, like Easter eggs. I'm probably there's probably a bunch of stuff that went over my head.
Sure.
I noticed. Oh wait, I probably can't say this in spoilers.
We'll get there.
But there were like certain mutants that I was like, oh yeah, I remember those guys being enemies before. But then there's like a bunch more that I'm like, oh, I don't know if those are even like canonically people that are supposed to be fighting, or if these were all brand new. So I think maybe there was some like, I was a little naive going in, that maybe I was just like, dang, they nailed it.
Yeah.
Without knowing too much of the lore.
Sure.
So that's why I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
All right. He's
So-
got his notebook. He's ready.
That's right.
Dude, Adam and him, Cropful family knows what they love, and they write stuff down. I respect you guys a lot.
I mean, and this is all stuff that I've been thinking about on my own anyway, but I was just so excited today I started writing some of it down. So,
Good.
so yes, I do have some notes with me, but yes, and we talked about this originally. I went in with very high expectations, and I was very, very excited for this movie all summer, ever since last August when they released the first like promo. They released just a sheet of like homework as if it were written by Leo. That was kind of the first like little teaser for the movie. And I will say, I think I went in slightly too overhyped for the first time I saw it.
You think it was the 500th time you watched the trailer, or the 400th time?
Right, but I think part of it was the cast. Phenomenal. It was phenomenal. A lot of big names put into this. The design I thought was so cool in the trailer. So then when there were a couple things that made me, as like the biggest Ninja Turtle fan ever, go like, it made me leave the theater a little mad, especially based off a couple things that happened at the end, which we'll get to in spoilers. So I won't whatever. But
Oh, dude.
It's coming.
there are a couple things that I didn't love about the ending, and a couple of things throughout. But then the second time I went to watch it, and also the fact that I saw a movie in the theaters twice indicates that I didn't hate it, and that I did actually enjoy it.
There you go.
But then the second time, I actually loved it.
Okay, good.
So I do think that seeing it a second time, being able to take in a couple of the changes that they made to my favorite characters, I think it helped me see it through a better lens. To where I would still say I definitely loved the movie, and I enjoyed it the first time a lot too.
Yeah.
It's
but
just
different.
Yeah, I was more critical of it.
Yeah.
It's a really busy movie too, so like
It
I
is.
almost feel like you do need multiple views just to be like, oh yeah, I forgot that this person's moving at the same time. Like the art style is so like it's almost like stop motion and
claymation-y kind of
and
feel.
watercolors at
Yeah.
the same time. I mean, like it's clearly inspired by like Spider-Verse stuff, but I felt like
But
it
it's
was
different
definitely
enough from
unique
Spider-Verse.
that like things would glow and like it was cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I did like the animation, the design style a lot. And I don't know, there were a couple things that I was a little weary of going into the film, I think. But then after seeing it, I was like, okay, you get used to it like immediately.
sure.
The design style. Yeah. But
Okay.
yes, I would say after the second time, loved it a lot more. Can't wait to see it a third time and get it on DVD and whatever.
Oh, you think
so.
you'll try and watch it in theaters again, or are you waiting for it?
Oh, I wish. No, I don't think. I think I'll wait until
Okay.
it comes out on DVD.
And how many times when you buy it are you going to watch it?
This is the kind of movie, once my son is born, it will be on repeat. I'm telling you.
Let's go.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So should we give it a rating?
Yeah.
Let's start with you, Mr. Cold.
Mr. Cold. Mr. Cold's given a solid. There are 4 turtles. Let's times it by 2 and give it 8.
There you go.
Oh, that's higher than I thought you were going to do. Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, Sam, what do you got?
And again, because of a couple things that made me mad the first time, I literally left the theater thinking like, oh, this is a 6 or 7. But then after watching it the second time, I think it's for sure a 9. I think it's definitely a 9. The only thing that I think could change it is the direction this
Where, like,
goes.
the future.
Because they've already, come out and said that there will be a sequel, there will be a television show coming off of this, correct? And then, so that could be the only thing that could maybe bring it higher or even lower. So
Do we know financially if this is doing well? I think it is, right?
I
haven't
know
heard
enough.
anything about
I don't know
it. Okay.
enough
I
to
will look
say.
into it. Its only competition was a vampire movie that totally bombed.
Okay.
So I think it's fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
Voyage of the Demeter.
But if everyone's seen Barbie, then
Listen,
yeah.
Dracula sucked, but so did the
Not in
movie.
the good way. You
But
know,
yeah,
like where
he sucked
it's
blood.
Yeah.
But the movie I think sucked.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check it out still anyway. I am also giving it a 9.
Wow.
I
okay.
really like this movie.
Cool.
I'm surprised that I'm leaving past halfway of 2023 thinking that there might be 2 animated
Movies.
childhood favorite movies that are perhaps going to be in my top 5 of this year.
Do you think like top 250 of all time?
Interesting.
In your
It's
favorite-
definitely the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie I've ever seen,
Yeah,
for sure.
sure.
But to say that is to say, like, you know, it's the best Terminator movie I've ever seen. I've only seen
Right.
2 Terminators, so, you know, like, I just, like, I don't have a huge backlog of that. But, no, I
Nine's
was
pretty high,
very
yeah.
surprised. And maybe it was just the way they told it. There's some tropes that are happening right now with, like, movies where it's like, let's just blare some random epic nostalgic song and then have something cool happen on screen. And sometimes that sucks. I think Guardians 3 is a great example of this.
Sure, we can disagree on that, but that's fine.
I just think there's sometimes where it's like turn around in slow motion and then something crazy happens. Like, this feels like pandering for some reason. And then there's times when they do it, like in this movie, when they do their montage of when they go after all the
Incredible.
thugs.
That was incredible.
It was awesome.
It was just creative.
Yeah.
It's just different.
And then there's the what's going on car chase.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up in the morning. That song. First of all, I have a lot of like really fun gaming memories to that song because it's just a ridiculous song. But there's just times when they use it and it doesn't feel
Like,
like,
hey, we're using a song you like.
yes. There's times
So
when
you like
movies
this.
feel like this is where the money went to, and they just really wanted to do this one thing, and then the rest of it has to go to making the rest of the movie. And this movie felt like it was very thoughtful in how it did those things. So, while sometimes I feel like that trope isn't always the best, I feel like this movie like handled it well and made me excited. And I was watching it with my buddy Andrew, and we were just cracking up the whole time.
Yes, Andrew.
Especially just having like Ice Cube play a fly was pretty
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
So
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
that was pretty fly.
it was just, what the heck's going on? Like, it's just, what a movie. So there you go.
Okay.
That averages out to pretty much a 9.
Yeah.
Your 8 kind of brings it down a little bit.
Yeah.
8.7.
Sorry, guys.
Not, it's for all the new news out there, 8.7.
8.7 for the new news. On the new news scale, 8.7.
Yep. Yeah, you just wait, Michael, until you have some young boys in your house. And then
Once I'm
maybe-
a father.
Maybe it'll, once you're a
Yeah.
father, then maybe I can get your kids into Ninja Turtles. Bring it up
They'll
to
get the
a-
masks and everything.
That's
yeah.
right.
Just do 2 and 2 and just make,
Oh, we could have a
An
power. We could
epic-
combine. If you have 2 boys, I have 2
Ooh.
boys,
Let's do it.
and then we can have the Ninja Turtles.
sick.
That's right.
And then Darcy can show up every now and then as the female.
Well,
Ninja
yeah. We'll do the reboot of the.
We'll do it right this
1996.
It's a perfect like landscape too, because you could just say "ooze got wherever," and you could just have stuff pop up
Oh, yeah.
all
Yeah.
the time. It's perfect. Like
Yeah,
I just
anything can
and it's
be
not
oozed.
stupid, but it's like it's just well done.
Yeah,
like
it's stupid, but
perfectly
it's like,
believable
Yes.
of-
It's like some turtles touched some moves. Okay, cool.
this almost like made me respect TMNT more than Power Rangers.
Whoa.
Because like I love
Let's have
Power
a race.
Rangers, but like sometimes it just feels kind of like the powers from the grid. Okay, what's the grid? It is the grid, and it's
Yeah.
just like got it. Like there's no like until you do some deep dives. So like for me, this just felt a little bit more personal, little
Yeah.
like you know, and those cute little turtles
Oh,
playing
dude.
in
Oh,
ooze, 10 out of 10.
Adorable.
So why don't we jump into spoilers?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some key
Let's get into the ooze.
takeaways.
Sure.
What we liked, what we didn't like. Would you rather start negative, go positive, or you want to start positive and go negative?
Either way.
Leaving it up to us.
Yeah.
Go
We're
for
gonna
it.
have to do what we do for a living.
what
Let's
do you
start. Actually, let's critique and then let's
end on a
let's
high.
crescendo.
Okay.
Yeah, let's end on the high.
I'll start
Negatives.
with a critique. This is one thing I told Grace. I am not familiar with Splinter, like lore-wise, but all of the iterations that I remember him, he is very much a, like calm, like he's Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is an absolute powerhouse and chill and not kind of goofy.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie kind of leaned more into like the dad who could still do things.
Yeah. But
But I was
goofball.
surprised that it went in that direction. And I don't know if it worked completely for me, but then I remembered it was like Jackie Chan and he's like the perfect amount of like silly and
could kick your butt.
so it was like Bruce Lee but like funny. I was like, wait, okay, so maybe this is perfect. But I think like at first I was like, when does the like jujitsu master come out? and he like still did.
And he did.
He did come out.
Yep.
But it still was nothing felt super pristine with their fighting style. Maybe that's just because they're like super like this is an origin story and things like that. But I think at first I was kind of expecting him to be a little more like John Wick, like I'm just
Unstoppable.
unstoppable. But I guess if he was too good, it would take away from them having to do as much.
Yeah,
so
sure, that
maybe
makes
him
sense.
kind of being it. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I definitely have a couple of gripes with this iteration of Splinter. I don't know if they're the same as...
I knew I was onto something.
I don't know if they're the same as yours, though, because I kind of liked the almost chill dad, or not even chill dad, but like...
Kind of like goofy.
More dad than
goofy,
master.
Yeah.
more dad than master, especially with them being teenagers.
Yes.
That's very unique to this iteration of the Ninja Turtles. Like, they've never before been voiced by teenagers. There have been a couple iterations recently
They're
where...
more adult-like.
Yeah, there have been a couple iterations recently where the Turtles are more like teens, but they're still voiced by 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
So I did like the more strict dad aspect of it.
That's cool.
My gripes with Splinter, and I go back and forth, but they changed up Splinter's origin story quite a bit in this iteration, and it kind of goes to what you were saying, him being like this ninja master, and in some iterations of the Ninja Turtles, he is a ninja master, a human. He was a human before getting mutated into this rat man.
Got it.
And then in other iterations, the second most, I would say, common is he started as a rat, but was a pet of a ninja master, which is how he...
So when he
learned
was
martial
mutated,
arts.
he was already that far ahead of the game.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. So that's the only thing. And it didn't bother me because it honestly was cool seeing a cute little Splinter rat running around and seeing him like learn ninjutsu by watching videos. Like it was funny. That was honestly a really cute segment and one that I enjoyed. Probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. But yeah, it was different. Yeah, I don't know, Michael. Did you have thoughts on Splinter?
On Splinter? No,
while
I
we're
just
at him?
enjoyed him.
Yep.
Like, again, coming in with no context. Like, him as, like, this provider of, like, this kind of ragtag family and them becoming the family, I thought was a really touching moment where he's like, I want to care for these things that are like me, and it doesn't matter if they're like my kids or not. They are my family. I thought that was really touching.
He says they were the first things that didn't want to kill me or eat me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought one of the most heartbreaking scenes was when he throws them like the pizza party.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, we gotta go." And I'm like, if I was a dad,
that's
and
inevitably
I
going
did
to
that,
happen to
I know,
all
and I'm
of
like,
us.
I'm gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
If like I'm doing this thing, and then they're like,
Yeah.
actually, we don't care. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh.
They care. They don't know how to
They
show
just, like,
it in
they
the
have
way
to
that you
save
want
the world
it to.
or whatever.
Yeah,
I
and,
get it.
and then not a couple hours later, he has to go and rescue them
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the mess that they got in.
Yes, exactly.
Because they ditched him. But
Dude,
so, yeah,
and Splinter has the best setup to a joke in the entire movie is the whole milk machine. They're gonna milk you.
They're gonna milk you.
Incredible. I don't know. It's
they're
one of the
milking.
best like setups of just like, haha, isn't this a stupid thing? Dad's gonna say it's a milking
Yeah.
machine, and then in the end it's like, what is that? Is that a milking
It's
machine?
the mega milker.
yeah, they literally zoom in and it's called the Mega Milker.
Oh, it's incredible.
That was
great,
hilarious.
great setup.
Yep.
Super good. No, I now that I hear your guys' opinions of him, I do wonder if I don't know if you could have had both. If he was truly like a master, he might have been too strict and less like less relatable
caring,
as a
gentle,
human,
yeah.
like dad,
Yeah.
than to be kind of the I care mostly, but I just happen to know how to fight because we had to defend ourselves. But it
He
was
was
not like my
strict, you know,
entire.
like-
he was, yeah.
He was.
But they also went out of the sewers a lot more than I thought. Like they had a lot of freedom to just like, yeah, just go. You got to run errands, okay? I understand.
Yeah,
You guys going out and whatever. He was very trusting of them just like leaving.
sure, yeah.
So I don't know.
But that was just kind of my gripe because I think I was just expecting him to be much more of a like sensei and less of a dad. But maybe the dad was the right, like you said. I think they have to make tweaks that honor the character, but still make it fresh and new for everybody. So if this is somebody's first iteration of Splinter, I don't think it's a bad one because I think
Yeah.
he's only going to get more like badass if you want him to, if you go into the past. But if you want him to kind of stay in this like if he's just a good dad, that's not really a bad complaint
Yeah.
as like a starting place either. So
Yeah.
that was just my first one that kind of stuck out to me.
Yep. Yeah, I did really like Splinter, but I would say my biggest issue with him was the end where he has a makeout session with Scumbug.
Yeah.
I could have gone my whole life without seeing Splinter make out with a mutated cockroach.
You know, but
And I don't know if you guys had thoughts on that, or maybe you guys didn't mind as much.
I thought it was weird, but it was like
Yeah.
I mean,
it was funny to be like, he's like, I'm in love with this weird cockroach woman.
yeah. I mean, given his options and that he's a rat, to me it feels right because I feel like the rat would probably pick the most disgusting choice.
That's fair.
Fair. Yeah. And I'll admit I liked the lead up to it almost, where it's like at the beginning he makes a comment about being alone to
Yeah.
them, and like, do you know how hard it is to date to find other single mutants my age?
That's true.
Funny joke, and I mean I could totally see like a single dad making comments like that, you know.
Mhm.
And then I also liked that at the beginning he says, "Oh, the only thing that was nice to me was this little cockroach. I named
Right.
him Kevin."
True.
So like
then
it
full
connects.
circle.
Yeah, so it does
Yeah,
connect.
yeah.
So I did like the lead up into
Yeah.
it. I just couldn't get quite on board with the Splinter now having a relationship with this cockroach
Throwing
thing,
up
but-
cockroach
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And that's another thing that depending on how sequels in the show go, maybe it won't bother me as much if it's just kind of sidelined. But if we every episode or every
You get the
movie
Gotta
or-
have to have
yeah,
a rat makeout
yeah.
session. Yeah,
right,
count
then,
me out.
then
yeah.
I think it's gonna annoy me even more. But we'll see.
But you could do anything with that character. Be like, oh, we're kind of on the rocks, and so she's not in the picture.
I will say exclusively right here, right now, if Post Malone as Ray Fillet does not show up in the sequel, I will not be seeing it.
Wow. Yeah. How much do we think? I guess jumping into that of like, that's a lot of characters.
Yep.
Like, how do you balance
I
that?
know,
but
but
also
they-
like previous.
They had them
villains?
all hang out at the end, so I don't think they shot themselves in the foot, but I think they did sign up to be like, everyone has to at least come back for part of this sequel.
Right.
I don't
I would
think
think
you
so.
have everyone get adopted and become a family and then
Yeah.
be like, just the four of them. And I don't mind having some like side like Paul Rudd's Gecko guy, whatever
Yeah,
that
Mondo
guy.
Gecko,
Yeah.
Mondo
Yeah.
Gecko,
Bruh.
Dude, all time. There were some really good cameos in this.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Yep. I enjoyed, I think all of the mutants, they were kind of like the side villains / now they're family members at the end. I liked them all. I will be a little disappointed if we don't see Bebop and Rocksteady
As like villains.
as villains
'Cause they're
in
like
Sure.
future iterations.
second
That's
tier
what
kind of,
surprised me
like,
when they became
villains.
allies right
Yeah.
at the end. I was like, wait,
You're huge.
wait.
villains.
It's like,
Yeah.
who's the bad guy now?
Right,
Yeah.
which I'm okay with it because they kind of seem like just the guys that are like, we'll do what we want to do, you know, what's
Yeah.
best for us. So like,
You feel
maybe
like they,
this-
you could do something. They could do something.
right,
That's like, why are
Yeah.
you doing this? We're gonna fight you on it.
yeah, they're just too iconic of villains to have them stay good. All the others are kind of in that zone, like Mondo Gecko, Leatherhead, Ray Fillet. These are all ones that are oftentimes seen as villains, but have also, you know, in different iterations of the Ninja Turtles been
Can be
allies.
allies.
Yeah.
Okay. They're
Like
kind of
Leatherhead in the 2003 show that I grew up watching, he was. They did fight him at one point because he's this angry big alligator guy, but and I know he was a girl in this version,
Sure.
but yeah, so that didn't bother me at all. That Leatherhead in this version's kind of going back and forth. You know, it's
Sure.
Bebop and Rocksteady that I think in a sequel we'd need to see them
Mm-hmm.
join forces with.
Something.
You know,
Yeah.
inevitably Shredder, perhaps.
Correct.
It was shocking for me, the turn of that quickly of like, oh, Superfly's going too far. We're gonna stop. I thought that my biggest gripe with the movie was Superfly becoming this big monster thing, and I didn't love that ending. And then and then the villains are like, now we're on your side. It's like I thought it could have been interesting to have like some kind of split down the middle, and then you create like more storylines with like if Bebop and Rocksteady were still with
The axis of
Superfly.
evil and the
Yeah, just
or
kind of like
whatever.
having these like powers kind
Yeah.
of set up, where now it's like, oh, Superfly's defeated, but then Shredder's coming.
yeah.
I don't know. it just didn't
Superfly's
feel
still
like-
available.
I'm
Correct.
sure you could. Yeah.
He's in a jar.
Right. But I don't know. I thought the turn was too clean.
Yeah, my
for
my
me.
dad said that as well, and well, I think it could have been cool to see some of them stick with Superfly longer and have maybe more good and bad guys at the end. I think it made sense in the movie where even right away when we meet these other mutants, it feels like they're reluctant to follow Superfly.
Yeah.
Like all of them. I feel like it's just like, oh yeah, well, it's the only way, you know.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me too much that it felt like they flipped pretty quick.
Yeah.
It was like as soon as there was another option, they're like, oh yeah, we wanted another option. We just didn't think there was another option.
Yeah, and there was a cool mirrored story of like the turtles and the rest of those mutants basically having a father figure saying this is the way it is.
Sure.
Don't ask questions. And I like that because like there's a lot of I know that's kind of a typical like teenage story of like
Right.
the parents don't understand, but it was cool that the parents eventually did understand and there was like some sort of common ground, and so that was cool being like a dad thinking about this in the future where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, there's definitely going to be some things I'm going to learn from my kid. It's not going to be just my way or the highway, because
Sure.
parenting that way is just going to create like, all right, you can't go this way, can't go this way. Well, then you're eventually going to just bulldoze
Something.
a wall down to get somewhere, you know? So I like that a lot. Another obvious absence. So they're not playing all of their cards, as Casey is not in this at all.
Correct. Yep.
How does he usually show up? Because I thought they'd at least mention him. I'm surprised that he was not in this at all.
Yeah, I would say it doesn't bother me too much, especially because there was a lot going on
Sure,
in this
fair,
film.
yeah.
And I'd be okay with them saving him for a sequel or the show. Typically, he buddies with Raph right away. They get in a fight because typically how it happens is Raph is training with the other brothers, the Ninja Turtles, and he goes a little too far with his anger, where he almost like actually hurts Mikey in most versions. And so he goes off and he's just like screaming at himself, like, why am I so angry? Why can't I hold back? And then he's on a rooftop. He looks down and he sees Casey Jones sitting there, like, beating on some thugs.
Dude.
And Raph's kind of like, okay, I need to teach this guy self-control. And so then he gets in a little squabble with Casey, but then eventually, obviously, they end up joining forces as more of the thugs come in. So that's typically how he is introduced to the Turtles, is through Raph and through kind of their mutual anger, I guess. But
Good to know.
yeah, it didn't bother me that he wasn't there, but I would say if we see 3 or 4 movies in this series and doesn't show up, then I'd be like, okay, come on.
Sure.
But
Because is he like that pivotal of a character?
I think like if April, I think he's the same importance as April.
I would say not quite as
Not
much
quite, okay.
as April. It would have been more surprising if Casey Jones was in it and April
Not
wasn't.
April?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas in the original 80s show, Casey Jones was in a couple episodes, whereas April was in every episode.
Oh, got it.
And same with the 2018 series that just came out. Casey was referenced in the 2nd season. And then in the 2012 show, he wasn't in the 1st season at all, but then was a regular season 2 and on. So, yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yep.
So yeah, I was surprised. Is he typically also like April's age? Like, will you think he'll be a high school kid?
I would hope so.
Okay.
I would hope
So
so.
they'll probably
Usually
be a
aren't
friend.
April and him kind of a thing?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, typically.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So,
Okay.
so yeah, if he's brought in, I really hope he's another high schooler, like on the hockey team or something.
That would make a lot of
That would
sense. Yeah.
fit his character.
That was one thing I was going to say too. I did feel like these were truly teenagers.
Yes.
Because I think like what you said, I was telling Kate before this, I was like, it always felt like these were just like adult turtles that were just kicking everyone's ass. And then I was like,
What's
but
the
they're
teenager?
also in maybe junior high or high school.
Yeah.
These felt like they're going into like almost freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were going to have them have like a high school career. Like this very much felt like a Spider-Man Homecoming or like an early like teenager thing. So it'll be, I think they are
They
ready
nailed
to.
that, yeah. It felt like that was probably one of my best parts of the movie was them just like the 4 of them together
Being just
and interacting
kids
and being
shooting the
like
crap, yeah.
they're just like they are teenagers, and then they would like go on like a joke, and they would kind of like go to like
Talking
too
about
much of the
Riz.
joke, and they're like, hey, got
Come
that
on.
Riz,
Who's got
ain't
that
left no
Riz?
crumbs, you
Let's
know.
go.
I understood all these references. I'm not old.
Good work.
And like it just felt like it felt just like teenagers hanging out.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's
what it was.
I literally had a moment. So I help out with the youth group at my church, and they're 9th and 10th
you do
graders,
it?
so 15 and 16. And it was so funny. We had a bonfire this past weekend with our guys, And oh no, I did not make it. Dang it. But I remember just sitting there listening to them, and I'm like, man, this could have been straight out of the Ninja Turtles. I should be taking notes here and sending it to the producers. But like they're playing Spike Ball, and they're just like ready for the zesty pesty, and just like stupid stuff like that. Like that could have been totally in a Ninja Turtle movie.
Michael does not need any more ammo.
I'm taking that now, and I'm keeping that for a long time.
I'm not going to hear
Catch that for the next 3 months.
Oh, jeez.
No, I kept bothering Sam to be like, please, at the next like middle school thing you do, say ate and left no crumbs.
Yeah, apparently they said that in the movie, and it went over my head. Cause, yeah.
That's gonna be the zesty pesty.
There you go.
I think it's when they're going on that huge rant about like pizza, Brooklyn, and then Mikey's just twerking randomly.
Yeah.
I think it's just something.
That scene was so stupid, but was so great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Andrew particularly liked that one because he was just like, dude, that's New York, dude. Like that's like, so it's just cool that they're authentic. Like I think the you got to give credit to some of these creators that like they're not just selling toys. I mean, yes, of course that's part of what they're doing, but when they do things like that connect with people and say, wow, you've gotten so close to the culture, subculture of these places, and that scene resonates with me, those go a long way.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the big tropes. So that's good. All right, what else you got for us, Sam?
I think there was one more negative.
Yeah, okay. I'll talk about my negative. And this, again, the second time I watched it, this thing that happens at the end didn't bother me as much, but it felt so foreign to Ninja Turtles to have them actually enter society and go to high school.
Okay.
And that was the big thing that I even leaned over to my sister right after the movie. I'm like, oh, it was such a good movie, and then they had to go and ruin it at the end. Like,
wow, yeah.
I dialed back quite a bit on like I take that statement back.
Why so?
Now, I think it, and my sister immediately calls me out and says, "Oh, well, that's just because it's not the Ninja Turtles you grew up with." And I kind of had to take what she said and been like, "Yeah, you're right." And that even the Michael Bay movies, the first time I saw that, I was like, "Those look like creepy aliens." You know?
Yeah,
and then I watched it. And I'm like, "Okay,
they did look like creepy aliens."
Yeah, they did. They did. And then I watched it, and it was fine. And I think it kind of had to be the same with this one, where I was like, they're creating a new version of the Ninja Turtles.
Correct.
And I'll admit, it leaves me curious to see where they're going. For sure. Because obviously they're going to be in high school. People know about them, right? I just hope it doesn't take away from the fact that they're ninjas.
Right.
You know, that would be my biggest thing.
Fair.
Is if all of a sudden, like, oh, no more sneak attacks and hiding in the shadows, and, you know.
Right.
Because that's pretty integral to who the Ninja Turtles are.
It's like Peter Parker getting his identity revealed. It's like, well, that's like a main thing with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like, if everyone knows who Spider-Man is, and like, what's the point?
Right. Yeah. And it almost didn't bother me as much when it happened in Spider-Man because it wasn't his plan. Like, it just happened. He's like, how do I react to this? Whereas this, it felt like the whole movie, that's what they wanted.
Yes.
And it just felt, which I totally understand. This idea of acceptance, it's a good theme for people to listen to. It makes sense that these teenage turtles would want to be accepted. It felt very foreign. And I also didn't love the whole, as they're leaving for school at the end of the film, they strip off their masks and drop them down the sewer. It just felt like they were stripping so much of who they are. And I'm sure we'll still see them with their masks on in future iterations. But that was the moment where I was like,
symbolic.
okay.
Yeah.
A little too symbolic for me. But
Fair.
But maybe there could be a big moment in the next one where they're like, one or a couple of them is like reluctant to be ninjas. And then they kind of have to...
Like they're getting invested in like some kind of high school thing.
Right.
Because the one thing I was worried about too was with all the training and all that stuff, they're like, we've never fought anybody. And I'm glad that they like introduced their first fight or whatever. But I was a little too worried they weren't going to be like good. And I was like, this is kind of your thing.
Yeah.
Like it's part of your name. Like you can't be just Teenage Mutant Turtles. Like you have to be Ninja Turtles.
Right.
And they did. Like I think they're like it all like it was like riding a bike. Like as soon as they finally started, they were awesome. So I do hope that I agree with you. Like I hope it's not too, we're trying to integrate so much so that we've just like forgotten that we even know how to fight.
Right.
We've just been eating too much za. And it's like, okay, well, this is insane.
Yeah.
But
and I'm okay with them starting kind of slow. Like, we see them fumbling around kind of in their first fight here. And then even at the end, they didn't really have to rely on the fact that they're ninjas a whole lot. I'm glad we still got those fight scenes earlier in the film as they're, we see the montage of them taking down a few different
Great scene.
groups. That was a great scene. And then also that first fight scene. So we do see them as ninjas, even if we didn't quite get that at the end, which I'm okay with it because I think they're building towards something. Now, obviously, they're building towards Shredder, which they will require the fact that they're ninjas.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
What is Shredder's story? Why is he who he is and pissed at the turtles?
And that's another thing that I'm very curious because I honestly couldn't tell you based on how they've set up this
Correct.
iteration. Because they've kind of stripped Splinter of his ninja origins, all of a sudden we don't know exactly how the Shredder is going to be linked to them.
Okay.
Beyond the fact that he seems to be working either for or with Cynthia Utram. So, but yes, typically Splinter or Splinter's sensei was kind of grew up with Shredder or Rokusaki.
Okay.
They grew up together like brothers, and then they fight over a girl. So Shredder
Tales old as time.
tries to kill them both, or he does kill them both. And so then that's how Splinter, who was the pet rat, or in some iterations, Splinter was the guy who Shredder killed his wife. I feel like now might be hard to follow. But
Whoa. Yeah,
regardless,
He killed
he's
Splinter
connected
or killed
to
Splinter's
the
like
correct,
master.
correct.
which now with Splinter being exclusively just a New York rat who got
Yep.
mutated, there might not be
That connection
an
isn't
actual
there.
personal connection.
That's tough.
Which I really hope they find a way to do that, because honestly, I was pumped when we see Shredder in the
At the
post-credit
end,
scene.
yeah.
Sure.
That was awesome. And I look forward to seeing this iteration of Shredder. I just hope that they do him justice.
Sure.
I don't want him to just be this, big thug,
Yeah.
There needs to be some tie to the Turtles or reason why they feel like,
Yeah, because at the end it felt very much like bring in Deathstroke, like
Yeah.
just the hero for or the like
hero for hire,
the,
or the thug
villain
for
for
hire,
hire,
yeah. Yep. Yep.
And I was just curious on like how
feel
ceremonial should this be? Because I
Yeah.
thought this was like the equivalent of like the Thanos
Yeah.
to the Ninja Turtles
Yeah.
as it
Yeah.
could be. So I was
Let's
just curious
pay him
that
a lot
like
of money to come here.
just pay money to fight turtles.
So like
what's
the
going on?
idea, like with it being a TV show and then leading into a second movie, do you feel like Shredder is that arc, or what would you like to see
Ooh, that could
going
be.
forward?
I think what I would like to see might be different what I think we'll see. I mean, obviously, we're going to see Cynthia Utram and Shredder as kind of these main villains. At least I hope that they're on the same level. And I'd honestly be okay with it if it's even like Shredder works for her, as long as Shredder's still... Like, I don't want him to
Prevalent.
just be the
He'll take
sidekick.
over at some point.
Sure,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And that's kind of reminiscent of the original show, because in the original 80s show, we see Krang, who's this pink alien brain thing.
Classic.
He's kind of the brains behind the machine, and Shredder's kind of he's still
Muscle.
the face of the operation, but he's the muscle.
Yeah.
So I'd be okay with him having a relationship like that as long as Shredder's not just this dumb muscle.
Sure.
But that leads into one interesting theory I have as far as where this series could go. Because you're asking about Shredder and what they could do with him. So it's interesting that Cynthia Utram, it's interesting that they have her last name as Utram, because an Utram in the original comics and in other shows is a pink alien brain thing.
Oh, so is she like the king or
So, the Krang.
Krang.
Yep. So in the original comics, there was just these pink brain alien things called the Utram. And then in the 87 show, they took that concept and made this character named Krang, who was one of the main villains. So anyway, I honestly think there's a pink brain alien thing inside Cynthia Utram's stomach. I don't think she's human.
Whoa.
But
You heard it here first, folks.
but
Oh, dude, I'm here for it. Let's
That
go.
sounds dope.
so then my next theory to go along with that is that Shredder may also be an Utram, because, and this is maybe a bit of a stretch, but in the 2003 show, Shredder wasn't human. The one that I grew up watching, Shredder was an Utram, so he had this pink alien thing inside his stomach, which is why in one scene they're pretty sure they kill Shredder because they slice his head off.
Sure.
And then he gets, after the turtles leave, he gets up, takes his head, and like walks off. So you're like, what the heck? Because that's before you realize he has an alien inside his stomach controlling this robotic body.
That's cool.
So because in this iteration they kind of stripped Shredder of his origins tied to the Ninja Turtles, that gives they could make him whatever they want. And because he works for this person named Cynthia Utram, I think he very well could be an Utram as well.
Okay.
Which would make some people annoyed, but it would make me happy because that's what Shredder was in my original show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that's far-fetched, but
I was wondering too if maybe this is also a stretch, but if Shredder was connected in some way to them because he was just another animal that got mutated.
That
might be a stretch, but you could then say like flashback Shredder was maybe something that was connected to Splinter in the thing, like, but maybe
he never like talked about it.
got a chance and was like an outcast or whatever.
Yeah.
you'd blow some minds if Shredder takes off his helmet and there's just another rat in there or something.
Or what if he is the fifth turtle? Whoa. Would that be upsetting to you?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
He's like, no.
I mean, I'd still go and see it.
Yeah.
I'd probably still fall in love with it, but
yeah, I was just curious.
yeah.
Because she's like testing and testing and testing. Like, what if she also figured out a way to perfect it with what she has?
Sure.
Like with the turtle, like when she milked them enough, did she get enough milk?
I think she got something, but
You know, so maybe
yeah.
we got like a super turtle Winter Soldier vibe going. I don't know.
Interesting.
There you go. That's just shooting my shot.
Yeah, there you
Seth
go.
Rogen, eat your heart out. There we go. We'll see what he says.
Did you guys have other thoughts as far as where the future of this could go, especially regarding, I guess, specifically the high school thing?
Yeah, I definitely can see like them getting more involved in like their high school activities. Like at the end, they each have like their own thing, and them being reluctant to rejoin, and then Shredder like taking advantage of that, and then they have to like team up and like. I feel like Shredder is gonna be the like behind the scenes overarching villain of season 1, and then it's gonna end on some kind of cliffhanger, and the second movie would
will
be
take care of it.
Take care of Shredder,
Yeah.
and then move on from there.
It feels like to me, now that you've gotten what you wanted, which was to be accepted into society, I think you're going to realize you now have that much more to lose. So I think the story is going to be building like friendships, and we're going to be like, oh, this is great, this is awesome. And then something's going to be like, now we've got a lot of cards to play against you because you've made friends. You now have, you know. But the cool thing is they might be able to not rely just exclusively on their skills. They could have a team of, you know, just chaotic teenagers that are like helping them out too. So there could be this sweet like armada of just like war between Shredder and like
New York
High or like whatever.
It's funny. But I was reading online, and really the only thing that they've confirmed about the show was just this like one sentence summary that says the turtles have to face life on their own for the first time ever, like without each other almost. So, and what I assume that they mean by that is just kind of them getting involved in their own separate things in high school. And we kind of see that in the post-credit scene with Raph in wrestling, Mikey in improv, Donnie kind of with the techie nerd guys, and then Leo helping April solve the TCRI case. Like, who is TCRI?
Sure.
So I almost wonder if like every episode they might focus on one turtle, you know, and their adventures or whatever, and then kind of building up to the sequel. And so they confirmed that there will be 2 seasons leading up to
a movie.
A second movie.
Yep. Cool. So there's 2 whole seasons of stuff.
What's streaming on? Like, what's it?
It'll be on Paramount.
Oh,
Paramount
makes sense.
Plus.
Yeah. It's Warner Brothers stuff, right? Or no. Sorry, Paramount.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
Yep. So I look forward to that.
Okay.
Dude.
Yeah.
All right. Is there what did this do anything that a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles property hasn't done that you were like, wow, great change. That was awesome. Like, was there a huge change that, or not necessarily a huge change, but like something that they did that you were like, actually, nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because I'm thinking of a couple little things. I would say if I had to say a bigger thing, I did like Splinter's the take on Splinter, him being more the father role as opposed to just Ninja Master. I did think that was really cool to see. And then also the fact that they're teenagers.
Yeah,
I'd say
that's good.
that's
huge.
another big difference that I think really paid off well for them. Yeah. Another question I had that I wanted to ask was if we had a favorite turtle, or if you guys have a favorite turtle from this iteration. Because I can think of like pros and cons kind of for each of them, but also I'm coming in with obviously a lot of conceptions as to who the turtles are already. But I don't know.
I've always been a Donatello fan, and I left this movie still a Donatello fan.
That's interesting.
He's. I feel like I have to like fight for him to get like screen time and all the things that I previously watched, and I felt like the two that, or like the one that always gets screen time is like Raphael. I feel like that dude just always, like, even though he's not the leader, he like mistakenly is the leader because he's just like always the coolest or whatever. And so I was glad to, even though he was nerdy, I felt like yeah, he's just like the backbone of the group, and I love that. So still my favorite.
Nice.
I'd probably also go Donnie.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
You can't. I already picked him.
Okay, well then,
It's
well, I
snake
just don't
draft.
know. I don't know if I could do Raph. I'm probably not into like.
I'm kidding.
His like arc is like aggression.
I was kind of glad though that he still had stuff to do, but I'm glad that he was like a little bit, at least.
It felt even.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least like just based off this movie wise is really what I'm basing on.
Right.
I have no other context.
Yep.
Because Leo was all about April, which was just interesting, and like it was funny for him like being anxious and nervous about like talking to the girl, and that was funny to like have his brothers like make fun of him for that. And then I don't know what like. Okay, wait. Mikey's just the goofy guy, like Mikey, but I don't know if he's like my favorite. So then it just kind of ends up with Donnie. I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't love him, but he was still my favorite.
I enjoyed his, just like I like the nerdy part of it. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what
I resonated a lot with Leo, as well as like the guy who was put in charge, and so he has to like tattle on them a bunch, because I totally get that. It's like I want to have fun too, but man,
Like-
when the rules are set before me, it's really hard not to just be like, hey, we messed up, like
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
He's a
So
rule
like
follower.
I totally get that as the teenager, like I want to be cool, but I also like don't want to lose respect of my
And
elders.
this is something that Grace said, because Leo is the role follower. It was good for him to be connected to April, so that it would give him a reason to start breaking rules and like go out and like do the adventures. Because otherwise, she would be like, oh, she said that Leo would have a hard time like
Yeah,
going
Yep.
out,
because he
And
then
so-
eventually almost like made up reasons
Yeah.
for them to leave
Yes.
more than
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah, and so that
was
made
cool.
it that made them have more active.
Yeah, I mean, you can
outside.
see how surprised Raph is that Leo's on board with this plan to leave. But okay, cool. So we got two Donatello fans
And your
here.
fave here is
Yeah.
it?
So I'll say my favorite turtle, like if we're talking just all Ninja Turtles, every iteration, my favorite ever since I was a little kid has been Raph. Raph's always been my favorite Ninja Turtle. And I think partly because in the 2003 series, Raph is so cool. Raph is so cool in the series that I grew up watching, and in the 1990 film. I think Raph was also the coolest character. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying, Nick, that he tends to get a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
But I think in my two favorite iterations, Raph's my favorite. Although there are some iterations of Raph that I don't love. Like the 2012 show, he was like just a bully. That was like all he was. So I didn't love that. But as far as this film goes, and then I was also going to say that Donnie tends to be my least favorite in most iterations.
Donnie hater.
Partly because, and I
doesn't-
like that you said that, Nick, that he doesn't tend to get the screen time.
Yeah.
Because he tends to maybe sometimes be the more passive turtle, or, you know, he'd rather find a techie way to solve something. He doesn't get quite as much screen time, which is why I think if you ask most Turtles fans, a lot would say that Donnie's towards the bottom of the list. But
Changing the
yeah,
culture.
Yeah.
but it's interesting that you guys say that Donnie was your favorite in this one, because I do agree that this was a cooler version of Donnie than probably maybe I've ever seen. I will say, and at first I thought this was something against his character, that it felt like we didn't see much of his techie side, and we more just saw like the nerdy, geeky side, like he liked anime and things like that. And at first, I saw that as like a negative towards this movie. But then I thought about it, and I was like, I don't want him to just be a caricature, you know. And I think if anything, it just left me wanting more of Donnie, wanting to see more of him. So it makes me excited for future. I guess the future of it. And I kind of felt the same with Raph. Like I almost wish we could have seen a little more, but I don't think that's a negative. I think it, you know, again, it's like
they were truly like pretty much equal. I mean, Leo probably had a little bit more than anyone, but Donnie felt like he was right at the same speed. If anything, I felt like Raph had less than I was expecting.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And yeah, I think because of that, I think Leo's arc was probably the coolest, and I'm tempted to say he's my favorite character, even though I totally understand the reasoning. He has this crush on April. It's a little weird for me to see one of the turtles like really fall head over heels for April. And again, I really hope that's all it is, that it's just kind of a crush and that they kind of make fun of him for it. Because in the 2012 series, Donnie had this huge crush on April throughout the whole show, and it just got to a point where you just feel bad for the guy.
Yeah,
because it's just
like not
never gonna happen.
Yeah. It was just they made it too real. Like he was in love with her, and he was so sad that he couldn't be with So I hope they don't do that with this, and that it's just kind of a funny little crush. So anyway, it's hard to give, I'd say, a favorite. I would still maybe say Raph, just because he is in general my favorite turtle. But I would probably say my least favorite in this iteration was probably Mikey.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I feel like they embraced more the innocence of Mikey in this one, and not quite the comedy as much. I don't know if you guys agreed with that or thought
good question.
that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, to me, what I was surprised with was maybe why I liked Donnie so much in this was like he was nerdy and confident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like a shameful hobby that he was a part of. He was like, you know, Attack on Titan was how they took down the whole thing. Like it was just cool that like he loved what he loved and he didn't feel bad about it. But you're right, Mikey had always been like the comic relief, but if they're all kind of funny and Leo's kind of the awkward one,
And what is Mikey?
then Mikey kind of loses his whole shtick because everyone kind of is taking that from him. And so that's what I was going to say too, is like, if I remember correctly, anytime I watched it, it was like Mikey and Raph were like the two like distinct, one was the like badass bruiser, always had the coolest weapons. I remember playing the video game, you'd always want to play Raph because of his weapons and just it was always fun. Mikey was always like confident and the guy who's like, hey, we need to be stealthy. He's like, got it, cowabunga it is, and then would jump in or whatever. Leo would just be like, you know, stoic, and then Donnie would be like, don't worry about me, I'll just be the guy in the chair, whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe it did hurt Mikey a little bit, but we'll see. Maybe he'll learn some new jokes in improv and he'll get better.
Yeah, and it's not that I disliked his character. I just think, kind of like you said, I think Donnie and Raph, in my opinion, were the more funny ones. So then it kind of took away from Mikey's character.
So like, what do you
in my
give
book,
Mikey?
but,
If everybody's funny, can Mikey be funnier, or is it going to hurt?
Is he the funniest of like a funny group?
Yeah. I mean, he had that cool part when, you know, he was like about to die with the ninja star. You know, when they were doing the with like the watermelon, you know, like, and there's like, oh, you're gonna be fine. But that was where like I fell in love with Donnie because I was like, oh, Donnie's like kind of like in on the game. Normally he's like the other outsider, you know. So for me, it was fun to have him be like the funny nerd. And nerds are just having a heyday right now, so it's good. I think it's with the times.
Yeah. Good.
So, okay. Any other closing thoughts on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
What else is in your little
Mutant Mayhem. Sorry, we need to add Mutant
Mayhem.
Mayhem.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'll just say I did like the message. I liked the message of acceptance. And honestly, I think I just wish that there's a specific moment that I'm thinking of that I wish this was maybe a little longer, and then I think maybe I would have liked it better, is right before kind of the final fight. You got Leo, I'm trying to remember. Leo's giving a pep talk to them, and he says, oh, this is where they lose hope. They're like, okay, they're never going to accept us, because they're on the TV and they're like, Ninja Turtles or Mutant Turtles are leading this rampage or something. And they kind of come to grips like, okay, they're never going to accept us. And Leo kind of gives a speech and is like, you know what? Even if they never accept us, we need to do the right thing.
Yeah, that was nice.
And I kind of wish that was drawn out a little more, because I think
Sure.
that's at the core of the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're outcasts. They'll never accept us. They'll never know us. But we're going to still,
Yeah.
take down these bad guys, you know?
Yeah. Like New York accepting them
Yeah.
immediately.
Because it was
Yeah.
a pretty brisk movie,
Yeah.
like maybe an hour and a half, like
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. A little.
And what surprised me was like there was almost 2 final acts where they like go and fight Superfly, and you're like, oh man, they stopped him. So what's gonna happen next? And because there's almost 2 final fights, I wonder if they had to like rush a little bit, which they didn't have to. They could have totally made this like an hour 50 movie. But to me, I was surprised, even though it was such a short movie, when they stop Superfly and then he turns into Godzilla. I was like, is this really going to go on for another like 45 minutes? And then it was like over in like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though they had to do all the stuff. So I agree that scene felt very like, we got to get this thing and the thing. And they're like, yep, let's get the thing and the thing. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, wait, let's go to high school. And you're like, whoa, whoa. And so that's why I'm like sensory overload. I think this movie, one, the way it was made just looks wild, and would love to like study just the last 20 minutes of this movie because of how crazy
Yep.
the mutated Superfly even is just an
All kinds
achievement
like,
of
like,
itself.
horses and stuff.
I hope it
in
just
Like,
gets
yeah, it's just
nominated just because it's like, dude, I mean, Spider-Verse was
it's gonna
awesome,
be-
but
it's gonna
like,
lose
yeah.
to Spider-Verse,
but like at least
Yeah.
get the nom, because that final thing with just like horses and arms made of crab and octopus is like, this is awesome. Anyway,
But I would agree that it felt very quick, a fast movie, fast paced. And that makes me look forward to the show, in all honesty, because we'll get more downtime
Draws
with the
out.
Turtles, you know? And I think that was one thing originally. Another thing that I was just like, oh, I feel like I didn't get enough time with the Turtles. I'm like, okay, this is the movie. You've only seen it once.
Yep.
Once I watch it a dozen times, I'll probably feel like I know these turtles like the back of my hand. But
it's cool
Yeah,
that they're
you're
leaning
these
into it
characters
too.
are-
I didn't know they
yeah.
were doing 2 seasons of a show and a movie. Like they're
Yep.
going full.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. If
already
you could
announced that.
choose between keep one movie and erase the other movie, would you do this movie, the Ninja Turtles movie, or Spider-Man Part 2, Into the Spider-Verse?
How dare you?
Which one's better?
I mean, I'm biased, but the Ninja Turtles.
Okay,
was
you're
better.
keeping Ninja
I did-
Turtles. Okay.
and I did love Across the
I was-
Spider Verse.
I was-
I'm
yeah.
pretty sure I gave that a 9 as well. But this is better.
Okay. Because they feel like the same like idea, like the same kind of like here's like a kind of quirky
Sure.
different style animated movie that is also just really good.
Yep. And I will say, and I think that this was almost, and you talked about this originally, Nick, that this one was slightly different animation. I think it was almost a little messier, and like, because I remember first seeing when I saw one of the original trailers, I was kind of like, oh, they made April look a little different, maybe, at first, my first thought was, oh, she's kind of ugly. But then you watch this movie and you're like, man, she's probably the most attractive human in this film.
Everything's just all the
Everything's humans
a
just
little
look
ugly,
kind of
yeah.
distorted, and it works. It fits in this kind of like dirty, I don't know, messy style,
Yeah.
sketchy style that they're going
a little
for.
abstract.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. I'm gonna be crazy and say TMNT as well.
No way.
Yeah, because I would still at least have Into the Spider-Verse.
Sure.
oh, there you go.
That's fair.
Because that was just and I hate saying this, but like I really did like TMNT.
Wow.
And if I had to get rid of one of them, I guess I
Wow.
would get Across the Spider-Verse,
Okay.
because then I'd get the third one, so it'll be fine.
Nick, I think I've really grown to respect you tonight.
Oh man. Well, you're gonna disrespect me, or
I'm no longer a
disrespect for me
voice.
'cause I'm keeping
I
Spider-Verse.
knew what you were.
I'm no longer just a voice upsetting you
That's
in
right.
your ear. I'm
That's right.
now a man that can upset you
Wow.
with my opinions on Avatar 2.
It was kind of interesting putting the face to the voice, because like
Oh, there
I've
you go.
seen you before,
Sure, yeah.
but I've never sat down and had a conversation with you.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I honestly, when I saw you at church on
Oh,
Sunday,
sure, yeah.
and I really wanted my friend to go walk past you and be like, "Wait, your voice sounds familiar. Are you Nick from Not Us United?"
Oh, dude, that would have filled
Dude,
my cup for a
lost it,
month. Dang,
Yeah,
that's funny.
Oh, that's great.
No, I'm kind of like, I'm glad that I'm meeting people that actually are like fans of the show, but it does feel a little like weird, because it's like, I understand we're putting like work into this, but I am surprised that people like it enough to like
To listen.
to listen. Yeah, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd say, okay, I have one final comment. Sorry.
Okay. Finish it off.
Please.
is, and we briefly talked about Ice Cube as Superfly.
Mhm.
But one thing that I thought was kind of cool and almost surprising about his character is that through his character, they really pushed the boundaries of PG.
Oh,
What
yeah.
a PG movie can do. There are a couple I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, can you say that
Yeah.
in a PG movie?
He didn't say the F word, so
He
I
did
guess they
not.
can stay a PG. But he was.
He was going there.
Yep.
I think that's also why it should get nominated. If you can have a movie with Ice Cube and he doesn't cuss, that deserves some sort of an award. It's like having Samuel Jackson. It's just like, Nick Fury, how have you not said the F word so far in the series? And you
Yeah.
almost did, but yeah, it's like, yeah, incredible. No, I thought he was perfectly scary because they actually don't show you all of Superfly at first. They show you a little bit of his weaponry, show him a little bit of no one's lived to tell the tale of who Superfly is.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of wants to just chill with people, and then he's just genocidal. And you're just like, dang, what's going on?
Like I love that scene where Leo's kind of like, okay, well, what if we're maybe not sort of on board with this plan to kill all humans? And
Hypothetically.
yeah, and that's where you just
That would
see
not be cool.
yeah, just see him kind of turn the switch of no, I was trying to be bros with you, but I'm also this intimidating guy who could kill you very easily.
Yeah.
But
Dang.
yeah,
Super good.
yeah, he was great.
Well, awesome, dude. Well, thanks for making the trip and getting on here.
Of course.
I don't know if we would have seen this movie if not for you.
Oh,
I might have seen it.
I'm changing lives.
Yeah.
Changing lives.
I definitely didn't know it was coming out this soon
Mm.
if it wasn't for this
Sure.
episode.
Yeah.
But I think I probably would have checked it out.
Okay.
Very good.
So.
Mm.
But hey, I'm sure many people have heard of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, but now you've heard from us. Not Us United.
United in the Ooze.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Sam.
You're welcome.
You've just listened to Not Us United. You can find us under Not Us United on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Please leave us a review and consider subscribing to our podcast. You can reach out for future podcast topic suggestions at notusunitedpod@gmail.com.